So you know how Nate and I have moved into a new neighborhood here along with Gayle, and one of the first things you do is check out the neighborhood.
That's right.
Well, Nate and I took a stroll to explore the rich history of our new neighborhood. That neighborhood, of course, would be Times Square. We learned about its role in shaping American culture. Take a look.
Tony, here we are.
The Viacom CBS building, where is it?
In Times Square.
360,000 people walk through here.
What?
In a normal day.
That's a lot of foot traffic,
That's
baby.
a lot of foot traffic. You know what? 360,002.
And two. Well, speaking of 360, I'm ready to check this out.
New York City first-timers and old-timers brush past each other right here in what has become one of the world's biggest transportation hubs. Just behind me, there are a dozen subway lines.
Or you can hop on this double-decker bus with me and sightsee with the rest of the tourists. What's up, fam? Oh, I got a wave.
Nate, while you're taking your little spin through Times Square, I'm taking a walk down memory lane. That right there is the last bastion of your grandfather's Times Square. Adult stores, peep shows, and porn theaters once lined these streets and came to define this neighborhood in the 1960s and 1970s. But that was then, and this is now. In the 1990s, the city launched a massive redevelopment effort, transforming this area into a tourist mecca. Lily Tuttle is the curator for the Museum of the City of New York. Set the scene for me. What would this look like 30 or 40 years ago?
There was a lot of adult entertainment, sex workers, drug trafficking. 42nd Street was really considered one of the most dangerous, crime-ridden blocks in the United States.
What turned things around in Times Square?
One of the things that was a huge catalyst for change here was the revitalization of some of the beautiful old theaters along 42nd Street that had been legitimate theaters starting in the early 1900s, but had become XXX pornographic theaters.
So the history of Times Square is basically, it's great, it's awful great.
Sure, yes.
Now, even in its grittier days, Times Square has long been a favorite setting for filmmakers. Movie stars like Michael Keaton shot scenes here. Amy Adams, too. They even shut this entire place down to shoot this eerie scene with Tom Cruise and Vanilla Sky. Now, if they're not filming a movie while you are in town, don't worry. You will run into a star here. There's Captain America. Oh, and Minnie Mouse. And then in the back, with her head off, yeah, that's Minnie Mouse from your childhood nightmares. It's easy to lose your head when you're walking around Times Square. Times Square has always been part of the music scene here in New York. It has served as the backdrop to many high-profile music videos.
These streets will make you feel brand new. Big lights will inspire you.
And our new studio was once home to MTV's Total Request Live. In the late 90s and early 2000s, fans would pack these streets just to get a glimpse of their favorite musician. Doma T. Pongo, you cover entertainment and culture for MTV News, which is part of the Viacom CBS family.
That's right.
What made Times Square the perfect fit for TRL?
New York City is one of the entertainment capitals of the world, and if there was a ground zero for that, that would be Times Square. And when you talk about the studio audience, it was almost like an extra cast member. That was the special guest. Aside from the musical guests, people looked at that camera winding through, panning across that crowd, seeing that energy, and you could feel it burst through the screen, man.
This is called Times Square is because that building behind me, the big one with the billboard and the ball drop on top, that is the New York Times building. And although the newspaper moved on some years later, this has continued to be a hub for journalism and for news. of course, we know we're not the only news organization around here, so we figured, let's get to know the neighbors.
And we picked up a little something to say hello.
I'm Tony, this is Nate. We work just across the street.
For CBS.
Yeah, CBS. And
Michael Strahan, of course, is an NFL player. I'm a former NFL player. He knows me.
Nobody is here.
Robin,
Is Mike?
Here on vacation.
can you take this and just put a little tinfoil on it with a note? It'll keep for a little while.
You can take it.
You want it?
It's okay.
It's good, I promise. Tell them to give us a call.
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell him we'll be at the house.
Something tells me they're not going to be calling. Even
No, I
though we
don't
say,
think so.
hey to Robin and Michael and George, we're glad to be your neighbors.
Hey, you know what? We ate all that cake and fruit ourselves.
We did. Mm-hmm. It's the
very
thought that
glad.
counts.
We're also very glad to be here. Also very glad to be here. I'm just going to ignore the crowns. We're just very glad to
Lady
be in
Liberty.
Times
I'm
Square.
a tourist. I'm a transplant.
I do say this, though, guys. I look at Times Square and being here very differently, and you both look lovely.
Oh, thank